everyone. Welcome to the Femme Tell All podcast. We are so happy you're here. And my name is Madison Bellissimo.
And I'm Ruth Devereaux.
And today's subject is careers.
Very
general, but we want to get into a lot about it.
Yeah, I think that we cover a lot of different topics here. And what we wanted to kind of touch on with the careers side is not only how we chose our career paths, also I changed my career path somewhat during a later time in life, and then kind of assessing what is more important, money, happiness, goals, like whatever that looks like for people might differ. But let's first start off with how we chose our career paths.
Yeah.
And Maddie.
I'm like, which one? I think my main career path is obviously being a performer, actor, singer, all the above weird slashes, multi-hyphens. And honestly, that chose me. Yeah. I know that sounds so cliche, but it did. I was like, from a very young age, I was singing and dancing and putting on little shows. I was like one woman wrecking ball that went around all the time as a child. And my dad's in the industry in the way of he's crew member. He's with IATSE, and he would come home and tell me dinner stories about like some of my idols.
The best storyteller.
Yeah, he really is the best storyteller. And I think that's honestly what my career has derived me into being, is a storyteller. Yeah. Funny enough. And I think it's totally because of my dad. But specifically, I always blame him for it because of my dinner stories. We're always like, my day on set today was with Robert De Niro and Bobby De Niro, and he said this
just
thing.
Just a few small names. Don't know if you heard of them.
Yeah, and he really, like, sometimes I'm like, Dad, Jesus, with the name drops. But like, he obviously when he was at home, he was not name dropping. Yeah. He was just telling us about work. But and he would tell us about these things, and it was people that I idolized their their talent. And then when I'd hear that they were fantastic people, I was like, holy shit, I want to be that. Like, I want to be someone that like people like my dad like working with and for, and
what was the main thing that attracted you besides like them being great people? Like, was it the aspect of storytelling, or like what made you want to be an actor?
I think I just always loved media. I loved movies. I loved musicals. It's just like such a spectacle, you know? And I think and it wasn't in the fame way where I was just like, oh, I want to be famous. It was like, I want to do what they're doing, you know, like. And so it chose me very young.
And you got to experience, I'm sure, set life pretty young too.
Yeah, but my mom really sheltered me from it. She knew, because I was not shy about it. I was like, like all the time. And she was like, okay.
I never would have guessed you were like that as a child.
Not once. No weird noises, center of attention. So unlike me, I know. No, my mom brought me to Wicked when I was like 9. And I remember the whole drive home, I was like, and she kept being like, did you have fun? Because I literally was just like beside myself. And she bought the cast album that night when we were there. And she had seen it previously, but then she brought me and my sister. And I memorized that album like the back of my hand, and I would sing it at the top of my lungs, and I was obsessed with it. And my parents would laugh at me because I was singing Defying Gravity at like literally the top of my lungs. And they were like, you're a child. Stop trying to be Elphaba. And I was like, I am Elphaba. And I'm also
don't smash my dreams.
Galinda. I'm going to do both. They're going to do a one-woman show, 2 characters, and it's going to be me. And so like I did that. So I think, it just chose me in that way. Like I loved the performing aspect of it.
Yeah.
I don't get shy being in front of people and doing like, let me show you my favorite trick, you know, that kind of thing. Like, I think that's why I loved it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What about you?
Now being in it, like, how do you, like, what have you learned along the path?
Yeah. It's not for the faint of heart. That is very clear. Anything remotely involved in the entertainment industry is not for the faint of heart. And there's a lot of perseverance and a lot of dedication too. And I think it's hard to not wrap, and I want to talk about this more at length later in the episode, but not to wrap like my direct worth with how much work I've gotten as an actress or how much work I've gotten as a singer. And it's like sometimes I know I'm really right for the role or think I did a really good audition or blah, blah, blah. And you don't hear anything. Like you just get a lot of rejection. Yeah. And like you just have to kind of get used to saying no. And they always say that and it sounds cliche and you feel like, okay, whatever. But then you really do. Like if you're doing this professionally, you have to just get used to the rejection and never take it as like a direct result of yes, exactly. Your lack of talent or your lack of like someone wanting to work with you. Like I think I've booked the majority of my jobs that I've booked from people that I'd worked with previously that had just kept me on for different jobs and like had asked me and called me up to do another job. Like that's the most consistent work that I've gotten is people being like, no, I like working with you. So please come work on this. You know?
I'll tell you the one thing I learned about casting after the first movie I produced and being in the casting room, it is not always the best actor that gets it. Yeah. A lot of times, especially if it's an ensemble or if you're working and you're looking at a bigger picture, like sometimes it's like, how strong are the other actors? Yeah. Like, how do they look together? Or like, all of those things really
it's so
play.
Many aspects.
There's so many things. And so it's like, I think originally when I first came to LA, it was to be an actress as well. And I thought that was like the answer. It's like, oh, if you're just the best actor,
then you'll get it.
You're going to get it. And there's so many other factors. And so I hope that you have learned, and it sounds like you have. Like, totally. It's definitely not you or your ability.
Yeah. And I've learned that. I learned that when I had interned with both an agency as well as a casting director too, because I was behind the table similar to you. Like, and that was very freeing. But then it was also like so funny to see the actors that I know were clearly really talented that were just getting in their own way because they were like coming into the room so nervous or so just not themselves. And I was like, guilty. I do it all the time. And and then it was easier to identify it when it was someone else. And I was like, what are you doing? You're acting so, you're like, hey guys, how's it going? It's like, just be a human. Like just be, you know, so yeah. So I think that's what the main takeaway that I've gotten from choosing this career is like, it's obviously never linear. There's a lot of ups and downs, and you kind of just have to persevere as much as you can.
Yeah. I would say that that's across the board in all career paths, though. Honestly, like I think that if there's something that you truly want, it's never going to be like you're the only one that wants it.
Totally.
And so there's going to be perseverance in all aspects of any career path that you're choosing to take.
Yeah, I agree with that. What about you? How did you find your career, and how did you get started?
I was born on
I was born on July 31st.
So I also am in the entertainment industry and started off when I was a young kid. I lived in Colorado, and I heard on the radio that they were going to do a casting call for kids in Colorado. And I told my mom, I was like, hey, I want to go. And it was like a casting open call, like everybody's going. And my mom's like, you really want to go? I'm like, yeah. And she has to pay some money for me to do it. And I'm like, I want to do it. She's like, okay. She takes me. I am lucky enough to get past like the first round. And then I'm like part of like this like acting thing. And then like these managers and agents from LA come out. And I get picked from one of the agents in that pack to move to LA. And so I moved to LA and knew nothing about the industry. Yeah. My family knew nothing about the industry. And I was here for like a year, and I'm like, didn't make it. Guess I'll go home now.
And like, let's just talk. Quick pause. Yeah. First of all, the fact that you had gotten through so many of those hoops, and you like had like gotten management from. That's a huge deal, and I think most people wouldn't have that, and like that's a huge opportunity. And I understand like that's so devastating that you came out here for 1 year and you're like, womp womp.
Yeah, and they later
the kid doesn't got it. The kid doesn't got it.
Send him back home.
When it's like that is not the case, but
we just didn't know.
But I also, in the same breath, I'm so glad you pursued it in general because I think so many people wouldn't even take that first leap of like, I just want to do it, you know. And like you obviously came into that fucking room like a firecracker, Leo that you are, and they were like, she's just adorable. You can't let her. And you're just so naturally charismatic, and I think that's what we lose that, you know. And like I think that is
the
so
fear
much
comes in. Yes,
as soon as you start perceiving yourself.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Another side note to that. I think the reason I was even attracted to this industry is I remember when I was a kid driving by a gravesite with my mom. Yeah, here we go with death again. Ruth's gonna bring it back in. And I looked at my mom and I said, I don't want to be forgotten when I die.
Oh my God.
And I think that's why I love the entertainment industry so much, because you give yourself to these pieces of content,
Sure,
whether that's
that
our
live on.
podcast that lives on, and therefore you live on. And so
It's a legacy.
it is in every form or fashion. Like that's why, like when you see like a movie credits and you see all these people, like you might not know their face, but you are watching their art.
Yeah. And congratulations, by the way. You just saw your name on a big screen for the first time.
No.
Oh, not first time? Second
yeah.
time. Sorry.
Yeah.
Second time. Let's run that back. No, we do one take here, okay? We do one
If
take
you
here.
didn't know,
So,
you couldn't tell.
yeah. No, someone asked me the other day, they were like, you guys cut that though. And I was like, no. We do not cut our podcast. We just go.
This is exactly how it happens.
Second time is what I was trying to say. That is so exciting. And I'm so
was
excited for you.
But so anyway, so I went back home after a year, but I still love the entertainment industry. And then I moved out here when I was 19 years old after high school and started pursuing it. And then just like started learning more about like what goes into pursuing acting, and just felt like it wasn't the right path for me, but I wanted to work in the industry in any way possible.
Sure.
And so what I did is I started applying to all of the studios every day for a year. And I just submitted every morning, anything I could find, I'd submit. I didn't have a college degree. I didn't have anybody I knew in the industry. And I got so lucky that I got called in for this job. And then they ended up hiring somebody before I could actually go into the interview. And I still sent a Starbucks gift card as a thank you to the person that was going to call me in. So he remembered me. And then when the position opened back up, he called me in and I ended up getting hired. And that was my first job in the industry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about perseverance and like class too. Being like, you know what? I'm going to
do this.
Yeah. Like what a lasting impression. And like, that's why, and it's not like you bought your way in there, like in the way of like,
$5.
yeah. It's just a nice gesture to be
yeah.
like, I appreciate your time and I respect you. And like,
yeah.
that's something. Yeah. And I think that like obviously left an impression, and then he was able to call you and
we're actually still friends to this day. And like, that was my first start in the industry. But,
now what do you do?
now, so to talk about career changes, I worked at the studios for a number of years at multiple different major studios. And for me, the things I learned for me personally that I didn't really love is that it was still like a corporate job. And so it was very much of that fight of like waiting for somebody to promote you, or that grind of the 9 to 5 and like Sunday scaries. I hate that feeling of like, oh, I don't like my life.
Yeah.
And I hate like, oh, Monday's coming, I'm so upset. Like, I don't want to live that life. And I saw people at the height of their careers that were like in these incredible roles and running major departments for worldwide studios that were saying they wish they could open a coffee shop and like leave their jobs and have like a life that they really wanted. And I'm like, what am I pursuing here? Why would I want that? And so during the time that I was at the last studio I worked at, I was very lucky to be able to produce my first film and fell in love with that process. And much like yourself, have always loved the storytelling aspect, and to be able to be a part of that in a movie format felt so special and so incredible that I set a goal. I was like, okay, I got to save this much. I have to find a managing job, apartment managing. We've talked in past episodes
on the finance episode. Yeah.
And when I got that, I knew I could leave and pursue this full time.
Yeah.
And so I saved and I got the job, and then I left. And I remember leaving that job and telling my boss, and my boss being like, what are you doing? You're about to be promoted. You're about to be this. And I was like, I don't want it.
Yeah. I got to do what I want to do instead of what feels right.
Yeah.
Or what feels like the right.
Exactly. Or what would be maybe in some people's eyes as being like, why would you leave that opportunity for something that's so unknown?
Totally.
But I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And so once you took the leap, were you like immediately like, fuck, I made a mistake? Or was it liberating? Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, what happened was I left. I started managing the building. And I was also, again, I always say I'm lucky because I am surrounded by amazing people. And I'm sure like preparation also combined with luck leads me in my path. But I got connected with 2 incredible people from the first film that I produced. And we formed our own production company. And my producing partner has been writing for decades now with his father, and they're incredible at their talent. So we started working on trying to get those projects made. And I was out pitching, and I was going. I had so many contacts. I was like in rooms with people like pitching our content.
Totally.
And then everything shut down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it'll be like 2 weeks, right? Like, no, it was
a month at most.
as we all know. Yeah. But then again, my producing partner had a relationship with a director, and we started making music videos. And the first music video we made, the budget was this big, and we did
2 cents.
Yeah, we paid to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it just kept growing from there. And like the first first video we did, we were doing multiple things. Like I was like I was doing DIT. I was like downloading the files and then also running Crafty and also doing COVID checks and like doing everything.
Yeah.
And it was a 1-day shoot. So we were able to kind of manage it more during the COVID times.
Yeah.
And then it's just gotten bigger and bigger since then. And we work with amazing bands, and our business is growing, and we're getting bigger budgets and bigger bands, and we have bigger goals, and it's just been great.
Yeah. It's worked out for you
Yeah.
for taking that leap.
Yeah.
Yeah. And would you say, besides preparing as like you did with saving money or having a certain goal for yourself, how would you recommend people at home like prepare for a career shift like that?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, like make sure you can stomach the shit, because it is, I'm not going to say it was easy. I'm not going to say there's not times where I'm like, man, I really miss that like consistent paycheck. I will say that I never fear a Monday.
Yeah.
I never fear like anything. There's never a day I wake up where I'm like, oh, I have to go do this. Like every day I wake up, I'm like, what can I do? Okay, this I'm going to do. And then I'm going to do this. Da, 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 da. Like I'm more excited for my life, but it does take planning. You do have to set up like, I guess like safety nets for yourself. Like, so if you're doing a complete career shift, maybe that's still in a corporate structure. Maybe like you're like, oh, I'm in marketing now, but I really want to work in law and like I have to go back to school for it. Like, whatever that goal is, like in anything in life, what is that end goal? What are the steps that you're taking to get there? Make it incremental. So if it is like savings, okay, I want to save $10,000. Okay, if I can save this much a month, it's going to take me this long. And then once you have those set, then like every step you take is kind of led by those as well.
Totally.
And that's the same with a career shift. Like for me, I knew I was probably going to make a lot less money for a long time. But I also knew that even working in that structure, because I was paying rent and still like commuting 2 hours a day, I was not saving a ton then either.
You were going to save on gas. You're going to save on rent by taking this
Exactly.
leap.
Yeah. And so I think it's just like balancing out what makes the most sense to you. And then if you do have to cut back on expenses to be able to pursue something that's bigger than what you currently do in your mind, then you also can take the opportunity to do a piece of it while you're still working.
Sure.
You don't necessarily have to jump as soon as you have the idea.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a start. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I produced my first film while I was still working full time.
Yeah.
So I was going to work from 9 to 5, going to set from 6 to midnight. Waking up, doing it all over again. And then on the weekend, being on set all weekend.
Yeah.
But I knew it meant a lot to me, and that's what I wanted to do. And I was happy every day to do it.
Yeah.
I was tired, but I was happy.
And I think that's one thing that like a lot of people underestimate is that, you have to come prepared.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sacrifice when you're pursuing the thing that you directly want and love and are passionate about. And even when you're doing the thing that is this safer quote unquote choice or something that you feel like, oh, this is something I need to do or something I need to make a certain amount of money to be a functioning person in society.
Yeah.
So if like, it takes a lot more than you think. And it's a lot of dedication. And it's a lot of just showing up for yourself like every day. And even if you're going through the motions, say you have a 9-to-5 corporate job that you hate, you're still showing up every day and doing it.
Exactly. I mean, the time's going to go by regardless.
Oh, yeah.
So either
So do you want to do it
exactly
with something you love?
Exactly,
Or,
yeah.
And I want to be very clear that we have sensitivity here where when you are pursuing something that you love, and you're not making the money you want, it is so hard to function daily because you're like, well, I mean, I have it all the time. I have doubts where I go like, well, should I take a corporate job? Should I take a more like strict 9-to-5? So I have, I don't know, health benefits. I have a steady income that's coming in every week. That's That's more than what I make now. I'm able to live in a place that I really love. Like I've been having that discussion with you a lot lately and other friends that I've been like, I really enjoy the neighborhood I live in and I love my apartment for its own cute quirks and all the things. But I'm like, do I want to live in a luxury apartment with a huge kitchen? Yes. Yeah. And I'm like, what would get me there? And like right now with the things that I'm pursuing, like we have to invest in this podcast a lot right now. And we took that's a leap of faith and we did it. And we're so glad we did it. There's no regrets here. Let me make that abundantly clear. But because we're in that up the hill trekking process, we have less like, or at least I'll speak for myself. I have less liquid that it feels like is disposable. So I'm looking at my means and I'm going, okay, well, I fully live. I have no debts. I have everything. Like I can pay all my bills and I still have money to spend on like dinners and things with my friends and events, but I'm not like rolling in the dough or anything. And I am paying for my healthcare. I am paying for my therapy. I'm paying for this, as adults do. I'm not like saying give myself a medal here, but I'm saying like, you go, well, if I did this, it would be easier. It would be more convenient if I had a 9-to-5 job that I just like go at 9, do the job, turn my brain off at 5, and then I go about my day and I have all these things, all these perks.
There's not even like a rule that's like if you were to do that you had to do forever. Like I forgot there was a book that I read a while back. I can't remember who said it, but it was like the idea of multiple retirements. And so like literally like even if you were to say, I'm not recommending this for you. But if you were to say like, hey, I'm going to go get a corporate job or I'm going to get like a 9-to-5. But I'm going to do it for this amount of time. And then I'm going to quote unquote retire again.
From that and then go back
to doing whatever I'm passionate about or like relaxing. And then if I have to do it again, do it again. Like there's nothing that's like, okay, it's so linear. Like there's these rules that I think that have been written about everything in life, including careers where it's like, oh, you commit to this career and you go, and then you're going to retire and blah,
you're
blah,
a failure if you don't do it. You're a failure if you change your mind.
I think like I feel like this generation has like opened up these abilities to say like there is no written rule for anything.
No, there shouldn't be.
It's really what fits for your life the best and fits for you the best and like your happiness and like your goals. Like that's really what you should be pursuing.
Yeah, it's funny that millennials and Gen Z get made fun of so much, more specifically Gen Z, but millennials too, where they're like, oh, your job was hard and you quit it. Boo-hoo. And it's like, well, some of the older generations were just taught like, you're gonna you're gonna like what I give you, and you're gonna smile while you do it. You know,
and also the pay grades at that point, even if they were
wildly
so different, they could buy houses. They had pensions when they retired, where like committing their life to a job actually did pay off in the end. Whereas now, like you hear about corporate like jobs like being firing people before they hit
left and right. They're just doing it.
So there's no like you should not be committing to anything because they are not committed to you and they can and will fire you. Like you should commit to what works best for you and what like you have the most control and passion for.
Totally. Capitalism has popped off a little too much. And I think that we are dealing with the aftermath of that. And in so many ways, we are going like, oh, well, I need to have the house and the car and the blah, blah, blah. So people are taking insane jobs or are like now some jobs you hear about that are like coding jobs that you're like, you're making $150,000 for, like, and you're like, huh? Even though it's a special skill, I'm not saying anything like that doesn't deserve. But you're like, and then you see the people that work in a restaurant job that maybe
or teachers
that are making less than $50,000 a year, and they're funding like the art supplies for the, and you're just like, where is this like wealth gap? It's so crazy. And a lot of artists, unfortunately, fall under that wealth gap a lot of the time because they have to have flexible jobs to continue to pursue the things that they want to do, their passion, right? And it's always like anytime I tell anyone, whether it's a date or a family member or a friend or something like that doesn't know my career, and they're like, oh, what do you do? And then I'm like, oh, I'm an actress, and like blah blah blah, and then I feel like I have to say, but I also property manage and I also do this and I also do this. And they're like, oh, yeah, I totally get it. And some people are really cool about it, especially in LA because they have an awareness there. But a lot of people are like, oh, when, and like the this is a very sweet follow-up question, but you get it a lot when you're an actor or performer. As soon as you're like, yeah, I'm an actor, they go, what have I seen you in?
Yeah.
And it's like, that is automatically, if they haven't seen you in a Netflix, like starring in a Netflix show, you are not an actor, you know, and it's always like considered an aspiring artist, an aspiring actor, an aspiring director, an aspiring producer.
Yeah.
And it's like, sorry, if I took the bar exam and I passed it, am I an aspiring lawyer? Like, am I like, I don't, you'd be like, you're a lawyer now.
People just don't understand unless you work in this industry. Like, it's so nuanced in so many different ways. And like, people don't understand even like the levels of which you can be successful in this industry.
Yeah.
And it's not only what they've seen or what they've experienced.
Totally.
It's like, it's across the board so many different ways. I remember even like I would never, when I was acting, like never tell people when I did an audition, especially from Colorado, because they'd be like, "Did you get it?
Yeah.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Did you get?" And I'm like,
No. Yeah. Because that's usually the answer, right? And and we've talked about this in the finance episode before, where I do believe in multiple streams of income. Obviously, you do too. You know, it's like that we kind of have to do that in this day and age because of the cost of living, especially in LA and in metropolitan cities like this, is so high and staggering. You do have to kind of have supplemental income in different ways, or like passive income in different ways. So by no means are we like, oh, don't be a wuss and like have multiple jobs. Like, have multiple jobs if that's what you want. But I think at the end of the day, from experience, we can say like, we've been in some soul crushing jobs where it's like that was paying my bills and things like that, but it wasn't anything for my mental, and even starting the podcast, I'll say like, this has reinvigorated a whole other aspect of, it's not performing, but it is something that is storytelling adjacent.
Totally.
And
we tell a lot of stories.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It that's the name of the game here, and it's such a passion project for us. And that's why we're doing this. And like, even, we know that we might not get money for a certain time.
Well, we've gotten paid in other ways. I feel like every time we get those messages where somebody's like, this really touched me, or I loved hearing this, or like, this really affected me. Like,
we get them every day, guys.
And it matters so much to us.
Yeah.
I don't think you guys could even really understand. And I know we say it every time we hear one of these messages, but you have no idea how much that to us is worth more than gold.
And it keeps teaching us to like continue to go. And one thing that we've heard so many times, which correlates to this episode, is so many people have looked at us and been like, you guys did it. And I've always wanted to do it. Or I have a friend who's talked about it. And like, I'm thinking about starting a podcast, or I'm thinking about producing a film.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't express to you. It's like, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Like, if you really want to do it, do it. And even if it fails or what have you, or it doesn't make any money or whatever, at the end of the day, you're going to regret not doing it more than regretting doing it.
Right. Because it's going to fail if you don't do it.
Yeah.
For sure.
There's
you're
no
guaranteed that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just go out there. I guess just to wrap us up here, choosing a career path is a journey in itself. We hope you guys are enjoying the journey to your path or on your path. If you're not, look for another passion, prepare for that passion. Try doing it while you're still working. And then just don't be afraid to step outside of the lines. It's better to try than never try at all.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And cosign.
Yeah.
Thank you so
much for being here. We're so happy you're here. We'll see you next week on Femtell All.
Bye.
Bye.